Well, No Way Home is upon us. Welcome back to my channel. This is the Jay Shrey Way. I started my first video about the trailer for No Way Home. This has been a 2-year process, journey, era of building up to this movie. This is going to be a spoiler review. I just want to talk about it. No point in making non-spoiler and spoiler. It's already the weekend. Everybody better go see it tonight, Saturday, whatever. I'm seeing it again tonight. I saw it last night, and it gave me a feeling I'd never felt in any movie. Like, I say that about a lot of my Marvel experiences. I grew up on these films, and it's been a pleasure. It's taught me a lot. These movies mean a lot to me, especially Spider-Man. That's like my favorite character, is like the one that I was introduced to with Tobey. But then we get the MCU phase that's happened, this big era that's really been historical for filmmaking. It's doing something that nobody will ever be able to do again. And they keep finding ways to go above the bar with these crossovers. And there's the meme, like, the most ambitious crossover doesn't exist. And then, like, all that stuff has happened before. And Avengers, we thought, was like the ultimate crossover. And then this happened. And it was everything, like, going into spoilers right now, it was everything that we wanted. Boys, we did it. We did it. Fans, everybody online that had been theorizing, speculating. I don't know if we bullied the studio into making this movie, because, like, they saw that it was like a gold mine with Into the Spider-Verse, which was my favorite Spider-Man movie, one of my favorite movies ever, prior to this one. I still got to see this, like, multiple times. I was thinking halfway through, like, my mind was racing throughout that experience last night, but I was thinking, like, this might beat Spider-Verse. I think Spider-Verse is solid, the animated movie, until the final act. The final act has the emotional beats, but I think the structure of the fight and the things that's going on, it's so out there, which is what the movie is kind of about. It's very trippy. But I always tap out on that final act with the Kingpin stuff. This one, I was thinking halfway through, I was like, this is already on par with Spider-Verse, even though I don't love the first half of this movie as much as the second half. But then the second half happened, and it was like, just for people like me that are just crazy speculative about these Marvel movies and follow all the behind-the-scenes stuff, it was insane. Like, I literally can't put my finger or, like, put it into words what it felt like to actually witness it. Like, we won. Like, the fans won big time in this movie, and I don't know, like, how it's going to resonate with just common audiences, like, people that, it's got the potential to bring generations together. But I know, like, my dad and some people that are just older that like the Tobey movies, that this wouldn't sit well with them, because it was wild seeing Tobey and Andrew back. They're back. If you didn't hear, I didn't preference that with the spoilers, you should know. I'm going to say that, but they are in it. All the leaks were real. But what I'm getting at is Tobey and Andrew, it was so weird seeing them directed in an MCU movie. That was the most jarring part for me, in the best way possible. I don't want to complain about it. It was just like seeing the humor beats with these two actors that have been directed very differently in their own franchises that really paved the way for a lot of movies. Even though The Amazing Spider-Man gets a lot of hate, after this movie, I guarantee people are going to go back and, like, find new love for those movies, because Andrew, in my opinion, stole the show out of all the Spideys, and people that might, because I know those movies aren't as loved and aren't as popular, and they might not even know about him. Common household people might not just know that was a guy that played Spider-Man. They're going to probably go back and find that movie, those two movies, and watch them, because he has the best. I mean, it's not even just, I mean, his performance is great. He was, after rewatching them all leading up to this movie, I really think he's my personal favorite. I think he's easily the best actor. He's the only Oscar-nominated actor. Tom's great. Tobey's great. Tobey just kind of got typecasted, I guess, or just didn't like Hollywood, and he just kind of fell off for a while. And the fact that I never thought they'd put their pride aside, because I know Andrew and Tobey both had their differences with Sony, and I never thought that they would agree to do this, even leading up to it, even seeing the leaks. I remember, I got spoiled through the YouTube recommended section and Twitter. It was unavoidable, and I saw, like, little thumbnails of them all in the ending unmasked. I was like, oh shit. And it didn't ruin the experience, though, because the fighting and the action isn't where the juice is with this crossover. It's literally the dialogue. Hearing the things they said to each other was so powerful. My favorite was, I mean, I can't wait to watch it again to let these lines like sink into my brain. But I loved whenever Tom Spidey was saying like what Aunt May told him before she died, with great power comes, and then Toby finishes it. Because everybody was like, oh, I wonder if Toby's going to be the one to tell him that, and Toby's going to play this like uncle role, spiritual uncle role. And no. And the way they did it was so subtle, and like it was just like big brain, like mature writing, and like you could just, oh my gosh, there's so like that moment hit. It did something like, it was just pure disbelief. I tweeted how I was just in disbelief, and it was a new emotion that I hadn't felt in a movie. Endgame and Infinity War, everybody's saying it's the most similar feeling, like with the cheering. I clapped so much that the seams on these gloves ripped. I was clapping that hard, like just an idiot, just smacking my hands. But it is different than Infinity War and Endgame. It's way more of a love letter and more personal. Those movies just went for these grand stakes and like just breakneck like pacing and stuff. This one has good pacing, but it really felt at times very heartfelt and personal. And I remember hearing the reviews, and I was like, man, how are they going to squeeze it together though? Like, you're doing all this, and then you're going to do the Toby stuff, and then the Andrew stuff, and then the villains, and they did it in the best way that they could have. It's not a perfect movie, but it's the most perfect version of this script and this movie that we will get. Because I just don't think you could have pulled it off any other way. It was so wild and quirky at times, and I tend to not. I have Far From Home playing on the menu screen back there too. I love some beats about these Tom Holland movies. Mysterio, they do really good with the villains. It has the comic booky feel, but they do do the Spider Boy thing. He's very jumpy and fidgety, and to a point where he's like losing that nobility that Spider-Man has, that Tobey captures the best. And this movie, I'm just jumping all over the place. I'm not doing this in structure. I'm just telling you, like, my mind was racing when I saw it. Now it'll be racing all weekend thinking about it, because I finally watched this thing that I created in my mind happen in a way that I absolutely adored. But that cold ending, legitimately, literally cold, Spidey swinging through the snow, you just hear his feet rustling on the piles of snow in the building as he's like, that was all CGI, but it looked so cool. Even then, it looked like a cutscene from the PS4 game. He had that shiny suit, and he finally made it. All these things, and it's like, and you felt like the journey he went, you felt it with him, like in a way that you usually don't, it doesn't sink in with superhero movies or just movies in general. Like, it's all like, there's like, it's just in the details in this movie. Like, he legitimately learned so much with these other Spider-Man, and their like legacy is going to live on in his head, like they have with us as fans watching it from outside of the fictional stuff. And like, you can tell, like, I feel like he was inspired to build his own suit now, to come into his own, to be a man. And if he never met those Spider-Man, it might not have like influenced him to do that. Also, Aunt May's death, there's a lot of things that make him change. And then that ultimate sacrifice that finally gave us a dark ending, like most of the Spider-Man films have. And it was just emotional, dude. Like, that sacrificial theme about Spider-Man, and how he literally has to, like, it was such a unique, and I love that about the MCU, is it's very simplistic the way they tell it, but like the approach and the technicality and everything around them is not simple. Like, I just kept thinking, this boy fought Thanos, and he even told Tobey about Thanos. That was insane, that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, it's canon now that he knows that Thanos existed, and Spider-Man from another universe fought him. And now Tom Holland knows about Topher Grace's symbiote. All of this is so insane, and stuff that only fans would be able to like say, stuff that is so wacky that we would say it, and like, it's stuff that I would say as a kid thinking it'd be cool, but movies would never pass that. And they actually did these things, and they made it like fit in, and they approached it so like mature, and It was just a brilliant approach. Speaking of brilliant, the most brilliant thing about this movie, and it felt so good to me, and it was the ultimate icing on the cake, is the mid-credit scene with Eddie Brock, drunk ass Eddie Brock, just showing, like, I don't even know, like, why this is happening, why Tom Hardy is agreeing to do these movies, because, like, yeah, it's fun to finally see Venom bulky, but that's not enough. He is not that old. He doesn't act like that. Venom is not clingy to Eddie, like, to the extent that they show in the movie. It's supposed to be the other way around. Everything about those movies pissed me off, especially Carnage. That was such a character I would waited to see my entire life, just like this movie. But the Carnage movie, I was very, like, optimistic going in, even though I didn't like the first Venom. I was like, I'll find something to like out of it, and I hated it. The way they did Carnage was so inaccurate for me. And they crossed over Tom at the end, and I remember everybody was like hype about it, some of the people I was talking to, and I'm just like, no. I'm like, please don't taint the MCU's reputation with this Venom shit, like this Venomverse, this Sony stupidity, jump the gun, rush shit, miscast things. I mean, I love Jared Leto, I love Tom Hardy, I love Aaron Taylor Johnson. None of those guys are who I would pick for those characters, dude. Like, and I don't think they're going to translate well. This Morbius movie, it'll be enjoyable as a nerd, but I just don't think it'll fit. I don't think it'll seem right by the end of the day, just like the Venom movies don't sit right. Anyway, I'm getting at, they pretty much, Kevin Feige, literally, it was like a dog. He's like, here you go, like, letting them come to get the food, and then just fucking throws it, just throws them. Like, Venom, like, oh, he's so close. The Venom fans, oh, if there is any out there, he's so close. He's learning about everything that's happened in the MCU. Oh my God, he's in the same world as Tom. And then he gets zapped away with Toby and Andrew, I guess, at the end when they close the multiverse. He's gone. See ya. That's good. Let it never be a thing. Don't let Tom Hardy, ever meet Tom Holland. I don't want that. It should have happened 5 years ago if you're going to do it. It's too late now. Should have put him in the first Venom movie if you wanted to that bad. You missed your chance. Don't do it. Kevin Feige, it was just like a big fucking middle finger from Kevin Feige, which is what they deserve. And I was like, dude, I couldn't believe Tom Hardy would agree to do that. It shows that he's a good sport. Couldn't believe Sony was like, all right. I don't know if Kevin Feige just pulled the rug out from under him and didn't tell him exactly what was happening, because it was just blatantly, like, disrespectful to that character. But the character is disrespectful to fans, in my opinion. And he left the symbiote. That's literally, you couldn't have wrote it better. There's a picture-perfect ending for me as somebody who doesn't like that Venom verse shit. They dropped the symbiote off, and now Tom's very vulnerable in a dark place alone for the symbiote to cling on to him. And now we can go to the next saga as the Symbiote Saga, and we don't have to deal with Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock. Maybe we can get a new Eddie Brock casting for the last time, hopefully. Somebody closer to Tom's age, mid-20s or something. And he meets him in college, or just meets him at work, and then that could spawn into the. I think they're gonna do Kraven next, even though they're doing the Sony Kraven movie. Kraven versus Symbiote Spidey is like a very dynamic story that you could put into a movie, and it's very dark. Kraven, Scorpion, somebody like that. I think that's gonna be the next movie. I think we're gonna get because we just got an array of villains we'd already seen. And the first two Homecoming series movies were new villains, Shocker, Vulture, Mysterio. So I think they gave us this fun, they brought back some characters that we wanted to see, that I'm gonna talk about in a second, and villains that we wanted to see, but we didn't need to recast them, and we knew that as soon as we heard years ago, that Alfred Molina was coming back, Defoe was coming back. Nobody was mad, because it's like, all right, we kind of wanted that, and they did it. Which leads into that thing where they've been listening to the fans, Kevin Feige especially. But yeah. So Willem Dafoe, though, I got to talk about him. He is. I heard good things about him, so I was preparing my brain, and it was just like Toby and Andrew. Seeing Dafoe in that playground of the MCU, the quirkiness, the writing, very different from the Raimi movies, and seeing him directed in that type of light was so cool, dude. He like fit. And as soon as you you see that opening scene, we didn't see the mask for much long, and I am 50-50 on that. I love that suit. A lot of people hate it, but people, it's got a lot of criticism over the past 20 years. So it was smart on Marvel to just take the mask off, and Defoe's got that eerie face, and I was like, are they gonna turn green later? Are they gonna give him another mask? No. And it was smart. It would have been too much. As much as the movie is out there, it's about curing villains. I was just thinking that's so comic booky, but it's so Spider-Man, is to cure your enemies and to try to fix them no matter what. It's that same heart, dude. It just kept hitting over and over again at the end of like, wow, this is the message of what it's like to be Spider-Man. And they just nailed that in the second half. First half, we still had that Homecoming series banter and some of that. I love the opening, like whenever he was like panicking and he got into his apartment and they're like hiding, and that structure and the filmmaking, the long takes, and that John Watts humor was really cool there. It was like, I was like, dude, this guy's finding his strokes. And then we get into some of the Ned stuff. I think Ned brings these movies down more than anybody. I do not want to see him play Hobgoblin. I think he burns screen time. It's a picture-perfect movie, but I still wish it wouldn't have been him that opened the portal for Toby. And I just don't think he deserved it. Don't think that guy's done anything to prove, like, worthy to be on screen with these massive characters. In 3 movies, he just doesn't do anything. I think he was even in the Avengers movies for a second, Infinity War maybe. But, yeah, he just doesn't do nothing for me at all. And it would have been cooler if it was, like, Happy Hogan that opened the portal. And that's another thing, but it didn't make sense. It's like, how can he open the portal? I guess he has some type of ability, because he's supposed to be a villain. Everybody wants him to be Hobgoblin. I don't want to see that, even though it would carry. I think they could do it like as a joke, a quick wink, where Tom learned that Harry Osborn from Toby's universe was evil, and they're like, oh, my best friend tried to kill me. He said something like that to Ned, so maybe Tom overheard that, and like it's just in his brain, and he's like, he might just expect Ned to turn evil now, so when he does, it can just take him down quick. If they do the Hobgoblin thing, they can just be a fun little wink, and they don't actually make a whole movie about it. But back to Defoe, it was just insane, and they did it so sweet, dude, how he's just strong, that goblin serum strength pumping through him. And like the act, I heard Defoe say he was like doing the stunts, and I was like, yeah, okay, let's see how much stunts he does. He had 2 like close-up fight scenes. The second one, it was cool because Tom's acting and Defoe's acting, but the quick cut, I was like, come on, guys, we learned 10 years ago this doesn't translate well on the screen. When you're the quick editing, the quick cut punching, so some of that was a little frustrating. But either way, like that first one when they're blasting through the floors on that building, and like Defoe is power bombing them and shit, like that was incredible, man. And like it just got a lot. And then like when one of my favorite top 5 moments in the movie is when Holland's punching Defoe and he's like keeps looking at him, he's just like getting crazy or smiling. Cannot wait to see that again. Just captured the essence. And then it goes down to the bottom floor. You see the pumpkin bomb, just to remind you, like, it's hitting all the beats, dude. It was hitting all the beats of who these characters are. Pumpkin bomb, picking Peter up by his hair, making him look at Aunt May, and then I can't even remember how it all played out, and then he hits her with the glider, then the glider comes back. It just kept revealing itself, dude. I think the movie, like, damn near perfection, as close as you can get, from that scene in the upstairs when Tom's Spidey senses are going off, and it's just like close up, and everything around him's like warping. He's walking around trying to figure out where it's going off. That scene had my heart racing, and I love the choice of like no music and stuff like that. From that point on till the end of the movie, I thought wouldn't have changed a thing. There's stuff in the beginning I didn't like. Matt Murdock being on screen was gorgeous. Just seeing him on just like the Dolby, like seeing him not on the Netflix TV screen with those glasses on and that cane, it was gorgeous. And he looks great. He looks better now than he did in the Netflix shows. But now it's like kind of like what? So he met Peter. They know they're both superheroes, I guess. He caught the brick in front of him. I mean, it was very subtle, just cute. But now nobody knows Peter, so it's like, all right. So we did that just for fun, and maybe they won't do nothing with it again. Obviously, Charlie Cox is going to come into the Disney Plus shows. Maybe he'll be in another Spider-Man movie in the future, but it was just a little stroke of like, hey, we put these 2 characters together. They're friends in the comics. We got to see that. That's all I needed. Didn't need a costume. I like just seeing them be together in their regular personalities. Doc Ock was insane. The fight on the bridge didn't live up to all the build up, like the clips and the pictures we slowly kept getting building up to this movie. There was stuff we didn't see in the trailer in the fight, but it just, that overabundance of CGI, like the Iron Spider suit is supposed to look animated in a way in reality, because it is, but it just doesn't look cool. Like, it's lost. I mean, I have an action figure of it up there, and I'm saying that I liked it at first, but it's gotten so old, and it was very, like, it just, everything was too shiny, and I don't know why they shot that in the daytime. I guess it fit the story, but even Doc Ock, his tentacles didn't look that good nowadays with CGI. I wish they would have stuck to the practical effects. But there was some cool moments. Whenever the nanotech went around the arms, I was like, oh shit, here we go. We do it in the trailer, but it's still like breathtaking to see it on screen. And then you figure out, oh, they tricked you. Peter can control them. That quirky energy that those movies do, but it worked this time. That's the thing. There was still a lot of levity in this movie, even though people say it's dark. There was a lot of levity because it carries on with this franchise, this trilogy, and these movies are like that. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is like that. Not by the end though. I really think he changed at the end, and I think they realized you can only do this for so long before it's just gonna be like, all right, can't side with this guy anymore. I can't look up to him like I do the noble Tobey Maguire and the cool fucking Andrew Garfield. I love their moments. Like, he'd pop in his back, and then he was telling Andrew, like, no, you're amazing, man. Like, seeing Tobey just say these lines was so baffling, dude. It was awesome. I'm trying to think, like, there are some good ones. I love, like, dude, Andrew, and they didn't miss a beat. They seemed exactly how they were in their, I mean, I get it, they're actors, they're good at their job, but, like, they didn't write them to the point where they changed the characters. Like, they grew up, but they still are the same dudes. Toby's still that, he acted the exact same. Like, they had that Sam Raimi type of dialogue written where he pauses a lot, and he does a lot of, like, funny facial gestures. Like, he's probably gonna get memed a lot. And then you see, I love when he lost his cool for a second. You hear him yell. That's that iconic Tobey Maguire yell. Like, we all know it, because we'd seen those movies so much. When he's like, how is this helping? That shit was hilarious, dude. I don't know if anybody else thought it was funny, but I was, like, trying not to fucking, like, crack up. I was freaking out that final battle. So many moments just kept hitting for me, dude. Literally just chills, shaky, and my arms were getting shaky. I kept crying, and then, like, crying tears of joy, and then wiping them, and then it would just hit me again. It was just great. It was so powerful, so special. Back to the Doc Ock thing, though. The main thing I wanted was him and Dafoe to have good moments, and they did. They really caused good world building between them, and it felt natural. Like, they never met, or we never saw them met, but they knew each other. We finally got to see it, but it wasn't like they first met, because they already knew each other, so on screen they were acting kind of natural together, but they still had a little bit of tension because they're opposing scientists. And then to the last big villain, the one that I was least excited for, was Electro, because we have all these cool characters to pull from. It's like, Andrew doesn't got a lot of cool stuff to pull from. Electro had cool fight scenes, but other than that, he was kind of trash. Same with Lizard, kind of trash other than the fight scenes at the end. I thought they both were better than they were in their original movies. I heard a lot of people say they were shafted, they were short-ended. I don't agree. I thought Electro was so, like, I mean, I still don't really know how he got handsome and how he's cool. They don't explain it all the way. You can only do so much with that. But I loved how he caught Electro in the comics. Not all Spider-Man villains are that complex, and he's really usually just an anger-filled man that feels like he was just wronged in life, and his powers are chaotic. They look chaotic when he's fighting Spider-Man. He can't control them, and that's how they made it look. He was, like, fighting all three of them at first, and it was just, like, uncontrollable, and I was like, this is capturing Electro. The thing, like, that's the thing, I could never see them retry these villains again, Goblin especially, and I would not complain at all. I know Goblin's, like, the arch nemesis, but his impact will be felt in every other Tom Holland movie from now on. Electro fit his role perfectly. I don't need to see him ever again, and I'm so satisfied. Doc Ock, I'm so satisfied. I wanted what I wanted out of them was what I got, and even though it wasn't the Sinister Six, they performed and behaved like the Sinister Six would. They had friction, they argued, They made fun of each other. They couldn't come up with a set plan. It was very messy. Seeing them all in the apartment together was so wild, so MCU flavored. And like I said, it was just crazy seeing these actors placed into that MCU type of directing and sprinkling that together. It was such a wild, beautiful creation. It's just like, that's the main thing that's jarring about it, is I picture them acting a certain way in their older movies. They seem the exact same, but it's just different lighting, different cameras. Everything's progressed through time, and it's wild to watch it unfold in front of your eyes, actually. That's the main, like, feat this movie did, especially Toby, dude. Seeing him perform again in 2021 with our technology, it was amazing. It was very, it's just an inspiring movie, and it caught the heart of Spider-Man so well. It was everything I wanted. Like, that ending, that cold ending, that sacrifice, man, it hit me like, I was just watching it, and then the credits rolled, and I just sat there, and I was just thinking, and I just couldn't, like, talk. I was trying to talk about it, and I was just breaking down, trembling, like, crying about it, because it was, the message just set, and then it just blew up in my head. I was like, wow. It's like, okay, you can't get closer to feeling the Spider-Man, what it's like to be him, than you just did in that 2 hours and 30 minutes. Spider-Man PS4 did a great job at that too. It's one of my favorite stories of the character, but it was something special. Can't wait to see it again tonight. I hope the audience is thunderous. There's so much more I could talk about, but I just wanted to get my quick thoughts on camera, because we did it. We did it, boys. This movie was fucking sweet. I'm gonna miss this era. I'm gonna miss watching the theory videos. There's a lot of guys I subscribe to and I watch every day, and just, it's increased the hype, and none of it was spoiled. Even though I knew a lot, it didn't matter. Seeing it actually go down in front of me was so cool and so rewarding, and it was more than you could have expected. I'm telling you, even if you don't even know, if you hadn't seen the movie and you're watching this and I told you everything that happens, it's still crazy to watch it. Like, there's a lot of screen time for every character. You don't know how they're going to fit them in there. They do. One other thing, I did love Sandman. Sandman was, I heard a lot of people bashing on him and Lizard. I thought they were great. Lizard was sarcastic, but, like, Lizard's not that, I mean, he was kind of different than he was in his movie, but in the comics, he's kind of not that deep, and they made him monstrous. They made him goofy. They made fun of him. That's how you should treat that character. I was like, I didn't need a lot of gravitas with that certain performance. And then Thomas Hayden Church, I don't know if they got, that sounded just like him, unless they had an impersonator to come and voice them, because I think that was them. And at the end, I was talking about it after, and I've seen people point it out in other reviews. I think that's recycled footage when they cure themselves and you see them in human form. I've seen Spider-Man 3 so many times. I know what Sandman looks like whenever his hand gets wet and it starts melting. I think in the sewer fight, it starts just dissolving. And it looked like that exact same shot. His face was even wet like he was in the sewer fight. And how would he be wet when he's fighting on top of that statue? So I was like, huh. Of all the things you did a little cheap thing, but it didn't even ruin the movie at all. Dude, and then seeing Toby's hand getting suffocated by the sand, and then he caught it, like, seeing that glove and that mask. Oh, man, it was awesome. It was awesome. But I loved how Sandman was just, we were like, wasn't he a good guy? Yes. Sandman and Doc Ock, both were still not trying to be bad. And we thought that from the trailers, and then they carried it on into the movie in a very smart way, and they made you wait for it. But Sandman especially, he's instantly helping Spidey. He makes a barrier. And I was like, yes, like, keep going with this shit. And then you just see how he's still a dumb thug, though. He's very conflicted, easily influenced, and he just went along for the ride with the villains. But it was cool that you got to hear that dialogue with Sandman, like trying to help him, and like he's like, "Who is this guy?" It was awesome. It was really cool. I couldn't. If I had to pick a favorite moment, it would probably be. There's two Andrew moments, really. Two of his lines. Whenever he catches MJ, we all thought it was gonna happen from the trailer, and it does. And his performance, dude, I just started weeping. Like, whenever he lands, and it's just a quick moment, quick cut. He lands, catches her, and he's looking at her, and like just his face, he's like lip quivering, and you're like, I even heard somebody in the theater kind of laugh, and I'm like, dude, like, yeah, it's funny in like a awkward type of way. It's like, man, and it made me cry because I really loved the Amazing Spider-Man 2 ending, and that was incredible closure for him. And then also whenever he said I never had brothers, and like he was just so happy, he told me he loved them. That whole scene just was choking me up. I was going through it when they were all together. It was awesome. He's like, yeah. He's like, oh, I'm Peter number 3. I love that, dude. Andrew just was firing. As soon as he came in and he was hanging on the wall, like so many iconic moments that will be memed and talked about for years. This will be the most talked about movie for the next year, easily. It'll be a movie we compare things to 5 years down the line. It was just an awesome feat. I do not know how they made this happen. Hats off to Sony. As much as you've made dumb mistakes in the past, bravo to you guys. Kevin Feige, this wouldn't have happened without him. He probably was a guy that foreseen a lot of this. So I think it was his idea originally. So like, just like I praise those people. Kevin Feige's brought me so much joy in my life, and he keeps doing it and keeps finding new ways to reinvent the game. And this was something special, in a different way though. You think it's gonna be like Endgame and Infinity War, those hype moments. It's different. It just hits differently, and yeah, I can't wait to watch it again. If you sat and listened to all my thoughts, I appreciate it. There's probably a lot of stuff I'm wanting to say, and I'm just like still processing it, so I can't conjure up all of it together. But overall, yeah, it was a solid. Like, if I had to rate it, I'd probably give it a 9. It's not a perfect movie, but it's perfectly what I wanted. Like, yeah, there's nothing I really wouldn't change anything, even though I didn't love everything. I love the Doctor Strange fight, the Mirror Realm fight. That was probably the best action scene in the movie, surprisingly. That doesn't take credit away from the Toby scene. It's still great seeing Toby and them swing around and talk. And then Andrew got his closure with Max Dillon, and then Max Dillon hinted at Miles Morales. So much they accomplished, so many little details. And then that's fuck you to Venom. Thank you for that. Then the Doctor Strange after credits scene, I loved seeing Sam Raimi's direction. I could tell it was him. It has that gritty color palette that I was expecting, because I heard it's like a horror feel, and they really make it look like that. It looks like how he directed Drag Me to Hell, and it's got me very excited because I love Raimi's take, and I hate how Venom 1 and 2 feel like early 2000s superhero movies when they suck. I think Doctor Strange is going to feel like that, but it's going to be good. I feel like it's going to feel like Ghost Rider. It's going to feel like Blade, the way, like, the campiness, because it's Sam Raimi. It's going to feel like the old Spideys, but it'll actually be solid because Kevin Feige's included in it this time, unlike the Venom movies. And also, I didn't need a scene. Like, I know some people were like, oh, it's just a trailer at the end. It's like, man, I don't want any more setup. I could never see any of these characters again. Tom Holland even. I'm satisfied. Thank you. You gave me the movie I've wanted to see my whole life. I don't need any more. I waited to get to this day to see it, and I saw it. I'm so content with everything around me right now. And yeah, this movie just means more to me than a lot of entertainment ever will, to put it lightly. So yeah, I didn't care that it was a trailer at the end. I didn't need 2 scenes. Even the first scene wasn't even really, I mean, it was a scene because it established symbiotes there, but it still just kind of felt like a little, almost a trailer in a way for the Symbiote Saga. But I guess that's how every after credits scene feels. Either way, if you stuck along this journey with me, it's been a journey listening to me talk. I appreciate you. I'm gonna have to take this costume off for the last time, I guess, until the next Spider-Man premiere. Maybe Spider-Verse. No, I'll probably wear my Spider-Ham t-shirt. But either way, it's been a journey. I love the YouTube nerd culture. It's such a pleasure to have been alive during this phase of the internet and of movie making. And as little views as I will get on this, I still appreciate you all for peeping it, and for being Spider-Man fans, and for being fans of me if you are. So that's all I got on the matter. I'm gonna go see it again here soon. And yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, I'll probably put it in the description. I'll put out some funny tweets and content for y'all as much as I can. And yeah, please subscribe to the J. Shrey Way. Guess that's it. I was gonna think of a Spider-Man motto, but just go watch the movie if you want to get inspired. See ya.